Hey, welcome viewers. We have our final three here. We're back for a little Fallen Comrades journey for them. Let's get a little bit of remembrance of all of our players that have been voted out thus far before they enter into Final Tribal Council. All right, final three. Congratulations again on making it this far. Before we move forward into Final Tribal Council, I think it'll be really beneficial for you to think back on the last 4 days. And as part of that, remember each of the players that took part in this experience with you. Each of them definitely had an impact on your game. So make sure you're kind of internalizing some of that as you go through memory lane with these names. And hopefully it helps you prepare for Final Tribal Council, okay? I'm going to turn this show over to you three. You can make your journey and stop at each torch, okay?
Aubrey. Aubrey grabbed my foot in the middle of the night thinking it was a water bottle, and that was my first true, honest to God, night laugh of our time here.
I think my favorite memory of Aubrey is the first night. He was in charge of the fire, and he stayed up so late trying to keep that thing lit. He was trying so hard, and I thank him for that because it protected us from the bugs.
I never got to know Audrey, but he seemed really kind. Like every time he just seemed like he really wanted to be here, and I love that he stayed afterwards, even though he was the first person out, and was able to like. It seems like he's enjoying the experience. So I love that for him, and I hope it's been healing.
I played the disadvantage on him. I never met him.
Yeah. All I really knew about him was from I could see from the land, and he was. I thought he had a good chance of that.
Justin was incredible. Like he genuinely is one of the kindest people. He's the first person. When I told him about, I think game wise, our game styles just didn't align. I know he's. I know if he plays again, he'll be incredible. He's genuinely just good, and I connect with him again. Fuck that.
Do I rotate it so it's not on me?
I don't know. Oh. That we didn't learn. Sorry,
Just some
viewers.
technical
I'm trying to figure out
difficulties.
the camera. That's why we're not normally here.
There we go. Okay, perfect. There's the expo.
Yep, there we go. All right.
Here we go.
All right, we're back.
Sorry, everyone. You continue.
Meg Kay, she was a fairy.
We picked out she taught us how to find ground cucumbers together, and I thought that was like the coolest, craziest thing. And actually it fed me for the first night.
Yeah. We nicknamed her the fairy because she was such a food and like herbs and spices, and every time she would come back with like 8 things that I had no idea what it was so impressive, and I appreciate her cooking and her tea and all of her lovely little finds.
I really liked Meg from the beginning. Like obviously I never got to talk to her, but I remember one day we saw her like scurrying around outside foraging, and me and Alicia came out and we're like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "I have clovers and daisies and all these things, and it's so good for everything." And we were like, "Oh my god, you're like the most adorable human being." And that's when we started being like, oh, she's the fairy. She's like a fairy from the forest, and she just seems like an adorable human being. And I was really sad that I never got to meet her in the game, but I'm really excited to meet her after the game because she's just adorable. So, yeah,
I love her.
Oh, Jorge. I never got to meet Jorge, but he seemed like a really awesome person, and he's been doing like the challenges after we've run them, and he is a competition beast, and I have nothing but respect for him, and he seems wonderful.
I just remember being completely shocked when he went because he was so strong. I was like, why would you ever vote him out? And that's why I ended up giving him a disadvantage in the challenge. And then he just blew past it and finished it anyways. He's just such an impressive person.
Jorge was my person. Like, I think that's probably the hardest vote. Like, I think there's been a lot of hard votes, but Jorge is someone that I had a lot of kinship with. Like, being queer Latino men who are immigrants, like, we had a lot of like things together, like identities together that we shared, and I wanted to go with Jorge all the way to the end. There was just no way to do that, and that just broke my heart. Like, I lost that challenge for us because I couldn't balance two balls, and I knew immediately Jorge was gonna go, and I just was devastated. I was completely broken because I knew I had just screwed over the person that meant the most to me. But he's genuinely a wonderful human being, and I cannot wait to talk to him again because I hope he'll be my friend for life.
Oh, MC. Um, okay, our first day at the camp, I was trying to make fire, and I didn't really quite know how to do it, and I said something that was like self-deprecating about myself, and she was like, "Don't speak about yourself this way, and have some confidence." And I was like, "Whoa, thank you." And she kind of called me out on my like tendency to go like this, and and then I made fire, and that sort of became a thing that I've done throughout this competition or this season.
I just remember her as someone who was like very brave, very bold. She volunteered to be our leader the first day. I just admired that so much because nobody else wanted to step up, and she was like, I've got it. And I also remember she brought a muumuu to wear in the forest, which was just the funniest and most iconic thing ever to see her like running around in her little flowy muumuu. She's great.
MC had main character energy. I never met her, but she was intense. She was really intense.
That's what MC stands for, main character.
Yeah, that's what I heard.
Oh, Maya. I loved Maya. I didn't get to know her super well because we swapped before that was able to happen. But I think that she is just a really warm, kind, and very present person. And she came into the game having gone through some difficulties in her own life, and she was so willing and open to like sharing them and actually talking about them. She was like one of the first people that actually I felt like really opened up in that way.
Yeah, I just remember the first night, Maya and I at like 3 or 4 in the morning, we sat outside in the field and we looked at the stars and we just talked about our life because neither of us could sleep. And I just felt like I connected a lot with her in that moment. And I was very sad that our paths never crossed again and that it didn't work out because she seemed like a really great person.
I never got to know Maya, but she always seemed really nice. She was really good at puzzles, which was really intimidating, especially for someone who's not good at puzzles. But she seemed really kind. Like, she always seemed very like, anytime that I interacted with her, like during bathroom breaks, I guess she was always just like really chill, really relaxed, and just kind. So I appreciate her.
Oh, Maya.
Other
Um,
than
Maya, I competed against in the the one-on-one challenges that we were doing, and instantly when I met her, I was like, "Oh, you're a freaking player, and you know what you're doing in this game." And then we spent a night, and she was actually so sweet and so kind and so foresty and well-rounded, and I just really have nothing but respect for her.
she seemed like a very friendly person. I remember seeing her as one of the vets that I had the best first impressions of. And I was hoping that we would eventually get to work together or at least meet, but that never happened. Again, I was so shocked to see her go because it just seemed like she really had a handle on the game. Very surprising.
Maya's generally one of the kindest people. Like she's really nice. She's really sweet. She's a really kind woman. I hated having to vote her out, but our paths just did not align. Like I didn't see a way that we could work together. But she's genuinely like a really good player, someone that I have a lot of respect for as a human being, and someone who you can tell just meant a lot too. So I feel really bad about it, but also I'm here, so I'm sorry, Maya.
Oh, oh, I loved. Well, these are back to back. This was our back to back tribal. Jessica is amazing. She is we we talked so much about how all we wanted was a glass of wine, and I really am looking forward to the day when we have a glass of wine together.
Yeah, she was another one of the rookies that like I spent time with outside looking at the stars, just talking about life, and then we never got to play together. Um, she definitely did not deserve to go so soon. She was a very smart person.
Yeah, she did not deserve to go so soon. I honestly did not want to vote Jessica out that time at all. Um, I was scared of the 2-2 tie. Me and Jessica bonded really quickly because of our sense of humor and like our life paths and stuff like that. So I love Jessica. I wish she had stayed so that I could talk to her after the game. Um, I genuinely did not want her to go, but I think it was what needed to happen for us to continue the way that we did, and it worked out. But I do feel really bad because Jessica's just an incredible woman. So
Oh, Kevin.
The salamander.
Kevin.
Amazing hair. I wish I got to know him more before we switched, but him and I had a sort of energy together that I could see that he was also a big capital G gamer, but also while being just like a lovely person.
Yeah, I loved hearing his stories about his students. I think he's such an amazing teacher and he's so good for those kids. Truly just like an inspirational person. In every conversation I had with him, I learned something new and incredible about his life. And he's amazing.
I wish I had gotten to know Kevin. Everyone has only good things to say. All I knew about him was that he was really good at everything, which was really intimidating. But I know we have a mutual connection outside of the game who always was like, Kevin is amazing, he's great. So I definitely wanted to at least say hello to him at some point. Um,
I think I know who this is.
Oh,
Brad.
Brad, our sexy lumberjack. Um, I didn't get to know Brad terribly well, but he was a really warm presence, and also was one of the people that was like keeping the fire stoked our first night together. Um, and I just really had like a warm energy. I was actually really excited to work with him, but then before any of that happened, we were on different tribes.
You wanna go?
oh, you can go.
Okay. I think with Brad, by the time it was time to vote him out, the writing was kind of on the wall. Um, and I really respect his honest approach to the game. He was very upfront with me, so I was upfront with him. I was like, look, I'm going to have to vote for you. Um, and being the sweet man that he is, he was like, okay, I totally understand, but I'm going to give you my sunscreen before I go because you're like burning out here. And I was like, oh my gosh, Brad, you have so much time. Like, don't be giving up. Use everything you possibly can to try to stay. And that's just the person that he is. Like, he cared about other people above himself sometimes. And I think that's something that I'm going to take with me in life. and I hope we meet again.
I didn't get to know Brad, but I really feel like we would have connected just from what I've heard from him. Like I think every time I wanted to see him so bad because he just looked really cool, and I feel like we had a lot in common. Okay, let's keep going. Sorry, we got distracted
Let's
by
keep
the
going.
dude.
Now just one sentence for each.
I'll go drink.
I literally did not interact with Bennett even a single bit. But I he almost made fire, and I thought that was really impressive, and I loved his hair.
Yeah, Bennett was just a very impressive person. I could tell in the challenges he was always like doing his absolute best, and that was scary. And I think that when we first saw the vets like walking down the hill dramatically, he was one of the ones I was like, okay, like you're definitely a threat just from the way that you carry yourself.
I love Bennett. I really wanted to work with Bennett. We just got separated, but I feel like the two of us understood each other in a way that I didn't understand other people. And I think people didn't understand him because he's a little bit more quiet. He's a little bit more like to himself, and like his interests are more similar to my to that than some of the other vets. But I really like Bennett, and I was really shocked when he left because I thought that Bennett was going to make it to the merge and we were going to be able to reconnect.
Katie. Oh, I didn't really get to interact with Katie other than voting her out, but she seemed. I mean, the first night she seemed really lovely, and she is really lovely, and I thought she was really kind and warm, and was like somebody I think in retrospect we were like could have pulled her in as a number. But I thought she was just like a really sensational person.
Yeah, the thing about Katie that I realized is that she's very resilient. Um, the whole conversation on my tribe during the swap was that like, oh, it's gonna be Katie next. Like for sure, Katie next. She's on the bottom. Everybody already voted for her once, but she would show up to every challenge after a tribal still there, and she kept that same energy at the merge, even though like all the odds were against her. Alicia came back, which is like probably the worst case scenario for her. She was still doing her best and trying to make the game last longer for herself, and I respect that.
I also didn't have a lot of interactions with Katie, surprisingly, but she was funny. We wrote here together, and I enjoyed her. I just think our games just never aligned, and I don't think they were ever going to align. She's someone that if she had gotten any deeper than that, she probably would have ran with it. So she needed to be sniped, and I'm sorry, Katie.
Snipes. Dan. Oh my God, Dan on our orange tribe was sort of like Papa Bear. That's what we called him. And the thing that I love most about Dan is how like willing and open he is to have a conversation and curious about people's lives and finding the sort of commonality there. And like when we were swapped apart from each other, I was like, who am I going to talk about movies and podcasts and things like that with? Because he was that source of sort of stability for me.
Yeah, Dan was like truly one of the most interesting people I've ever met. Every time I talked to him, he would tell stories and I would find something else that just made my jaw drop. I was like, what do you mean, Dan? Your life is so crazy. Yeah, absolutely, Papa Bear. It was crushing to vote him out.
I really like Dan. I don't think our paths again were ever going to align, but I think we were starting to build a really cute relationship and a really cool relationship to get to know him, which was dangerous because I already had too many relationships that were really good at that point. Um, but he was a really sweet man, and I could tell how much he cared about it, which I think just hurt a little bit. But...
Zoe.
Oh, Zoe was so sweet and kind, and we never really got to actively, truly work together until the brief orange blue meetup that kind of crumbled before it really took light. But Zoe was like really uh, energetic and really wanting to game and to strategize, and was sort of a fun presence to be around. And we kept finding each other and being like, I'm not coming after you, are you coming after me? And then me being like, no, even though I had thrown her name out.
Yeah, I worked very closely with Zoe, and I feel like we really understood each other on a game level, which made it really difficult when it came time to vote her out. Um, because there was always this worry that she was going to find out. She's just such an impressive player, and I respect her a ton.
I'm a baby. I love Zoe. I think it was very clear from everyone. Zoe reminds me a lot of my students. She reminds me a lot of people that I get to spend a lot of time with. She's hilarious. I cannot wait for you all to hear about all her nemesis that she had and all her thoughts. Too funny. She's just an incredible, incredible woman, and I'm really excited to talk to her after this. It was devastating when some people decided to betray everything and vote her out. But we love Zoe.
Sorry.
Oh, Louis, I love Louis. Oh, I love Louis. Um, Louis was a very important member of the Latin Gay Boys Alliance. And I thought that he was just really one of the funniest people in the world. And we would always be making eye contact at camp, and he was like, for me, a big person to check in with and be like, can I experience joy in this moment? And with Louis, the answer was always yes.
Yeah, I mean, I love Louis, but to not continue to say that, a funny story I have about Louis, or a favorite memory, is when we got swapped and we found out that our tribe was getting the new camp. Louis literally saved us. We were huddled under the tarp. It was like pouring rain. We were soaking wet, and Louis started a fire with wet wood under our tarp, and that's what allowed us to stay warm during the storm. And that was like one of the worst storms I've ever seen. He literally saved us.
I love Louis. I wish that we had been able to actually play together. I think we were starting to, but we never really did. He is one of the funniest people. He's so kind. He cares so much about this game. He's so passionate. I love him. I cannot say enough good things about Louis. He's just genuinely a wonderful person.
Mm-hmm.
Molly was my day one. Molly and I think we've said this memory to each other so many times now, but the first night, neither of us could sleep. I mean, none of us in the camp could sleep, but I have there was this moment where Molly and I were both sitting straight up in our sleeping bags, like still in our sleeping bags, just sitting straight up. And we like turned to each other and we made eye contact. And there was like a moment of like, this is crazy. And then we both started laughing, like just like hilariously laughing. And then the next morning we were like, we're in this together, aren't we? And then we were like, yeah. And we were.
Molly's such a positive person. I barely ever heard her complain, even when we were suffering, we were starving, we were hot, we were hungry. And I felt like her positivity always convinced me to like look at the world a little bit brighter when I was struggling out here.
I love Molly. One of my favorite memories of this game is when me and her did the Exile, and we're just joking around, laughing, not taking it very seriously while also taking it seriously, and just competing against each other as like friends. And it just felt like we were playing like, I don't know, Mario Party or something, because we were just having so much fun with it. And then just the relationship that I had with her, like it was always very like honest and straightforward, and just like love. Even when we were about to vote each other, we were joking around like, oh, we fucked up, it's one of us. So I just appreciate the positivity and just like the human being that she is.
Oh.
Meg.
Meg and I connected so hard on our tribe, and we worked together a lot. She, along with me, we voted out Louis together, and it sort of solidified the game that we were playing together. And then, of course, she went out right after that. But but I loved her ability to just say, "I'm with you. We're doing this together," and to just actually scheme and game and plot. And we talked through all of our plans together constantly.
Yeah, Meg and I would do this thing where we would work together and it would be going well, and then something would happen, and it would be like this awkward reconcile of like us apologizing and being like, okay, we can still work together again. And we tried and tried and tried, and I respect the fact that she was always willing to do that, as was I. I think that, you know, the bond that we formed personally in our conversations was hopefully stronger than the game things that pushed us apart. I think she's an inspiring person.
Meg, and Cam were my number ones. We said it at the first night. We were supposed to stick together to the end. And I never turned her. But Meg is just a wonderful woman. She has such an exciting life. She's such a great mom. She's such a great wife. She's just a wonderful, wonderful woman. And her, Dylan, and Molly convinced me to visit New York, which I've been not wanting to do.
You
But now I
should.
have to. And I just love Meg, and I cannot wait to talk to her after this game because I just think she's a beautiful soul.
Alicia.
Oh man, Alicia. What a remarkable player. She was a threat from day one, and nobody could really get her. And she came back into this game. But what I appreciate most is that she actually like really saw and acknowledged people. She wasn't just like a comp beast and a threat who was a threat because they were so good at comps, or they were a threat because they really saw people. And she was one of the first people to say something about my game that actually changed my entire way that I was playing my game.
Yeah, Alicia's one of the most resilient people I've ever met. I mean, she got dealt a horrible, horrible hand. Like, all of us would have been devastated to be in the situation that she was in. And she turned it around, and not only turned it around, but had like a lot of success. And I think that really speaks to just how good she is.
Oh, she's a fucking queen, dude. She's incredible. She's probably one of the best players in the season,
If
like
not the
by a lot,
best.
if not the best. Like genuinely, she's definitely a contender for that title.
Mm-hmm.
I love that Alicia and I wanted to work together the entire game, but we also knew that we weren't going to. And I love like the friendship as the people and like rivalry within the game that we had. I think it was a really cool dynamic that I am really happy to experience. And just the way that she took care of me when I had my panic attack, and just she took care of everyone, and how she was very able to separate that personal from game, and how hard she fought. Alicia's amazing.
Okay.
Ty. Okay, my favorite memory. Ty is one of the like most thoughtful people that I met here. I also think that he's one of the most like. I just found him to be so charming and real. And actually, we like never really lied to each other in this game while being on complete opposite sides, which is sort of awesome. But my favorite memory was when we were the challenge that I won immunity on with the poles and the ping pong balls. We just were gunning for each other the whole time, and it did come down to a photo finish. And we were just like, why did we do that? And I really liked that.
Yeah, Ty is like an incredible human being and an amazing father and such a comforting person to be around. We would be in the middle of some chaos all the time, and talking to Ty made me feel like, okay, it's gonna be okay. Like, we're gonna get our way out of this. And I felt the same way when I went on the journey with him. He was the first vet that I ever met, and I was scared of the vets. I was like, who are these people who already know what they're doing? And Ty was like, okay, I want to work with you, and that sort of set the stage for our relationship. And I'm grateful for him.
I agree. Ty has a really calming presence. Me and him agreed early that we were gonna look out for each other, and we did. I love Ty though. I think he, like you said, he's a wonderful father. He's a wonderful human being. So kind, so warm. I cannot wait to talk to him after the game either. Like he's just 10 out of 10 human being.
And I love his overalls.
Oh, his overalls are so cool. Yeah.
This was, I mean, Cam is like an angel. Cam was always open and honest with me. We were always looking out for each other. We made a lot of deals together of like, I won't put your name down for this one if you don't put mine for the next. And he was sort of he was the person that I connected with first from post merge, and was the man who I felt the most kinship toward when the game got hard. He was like really there for me during those moments, and I love him for that.
Yeah, Cameron and I had this very interesting relationship. It was like the world was against us working together, and yet we still tried. And the world ended up winning. Like, every single time it did not work out, but I appreciated his positivity in our conversations. I think that on a human level, we got along really well, and in another world, things would have been different.
Cam was my number one person from the very beginning. Ooh, he's just an amazing person. I'm really lucky to be able to have played with him and talk to him and just be around him. Like being both CYS returners was so cool that we made it this far. And I know that it was probably best for my game to vote him out, but I just could not do it. Like I could not. After he was like, "I love you," I was like, "I can't. Like, I'm so sorry to like have to do you because I just cannot do Cam. Like, it was impossible for me emotionally, and my emotions unfortunately won. But I love you, our king.
Oh man,
Yeah.
Kev, like first person I clicked with when I got here. We were doing the like running around finding things, finding the gravestones. That feels like 100 years ago. And him and I just sort of instantly, we had a Miami connection, we had a queer Latin connection, we had all of these things that felt like we lived like similar lives, similar but different lives in a way. And we wanted to ride all the way to the end. But he's just one of the best players I've ever seen. And to be a rookie and do that is just like astounding.
Yeah, Kevin and I, we just instantly knew we were going to be friends. I mean, we didn't talk one-on-one the entire first day, but we kept making these like really weird eye looks at each other. Later, we said it was like we were flirting within the game. We were like, "Do you want to work with me? Do you want to work with me?" And then, like, once we finally got to talk, it was sealed. Like, we were going all the way together, and cutting him broke me.
Yeah, I loved Kevin. Before we even met, we kept giving eyes to each other and smiling, and I was like, I love him. Like, there's just something about him that is just disarming. I agree. I think him and Alicia are like top two players of this entire game, and it's really difficult to know like which one's best. But like, incredible player. He started really like slow and under the radar, and then when he put it up, it was like run the entire thing, and it was just intimidating. He's just an incredible person. Like I don't have a lot of Latina queer friends, and I'm really excited to have him in my life now. Because I think it is going to be a friendship that I'm going to treasure a lot. And it was really hard to see him go, but I love him for the way that he went.
Okay. Thank you so much, Final Three. I hope that trip down memory lane helped you get ready for Final Tribal Council. You're going to aim to be back for 6 p.m. for Final Tribal Council. In the meantime,
You know the time. Literally the first
spoiler
time.
alert.
It's 6.
About 5:30. You have about a half an hour more to collect your thoughts. We have some food for you, so you can hopefully get some sustenance in there. Maybe think a little bit straighter at Final Tribal. We'll see you soon. Okay. Thank you, everyone.
He said, "Think straighter."